Hello YouTube Pipers, Double O Pipe here. I already packed and lit my pipe. It's my Molino, once again, Carter Hall, once again. I didn't really have much to say, but I just wanted to get on and have a smoke, and maybe somebody would light their pipe with me. Jeepers. I had some lit tobacco bits jump out at me. Brushed them off in time, though. I have a cup of tea with a splash of milk. I always put these rubber bits on here, and this is the second one. I must really chomp down on this thing, because look at that. Can you see? That tooth has gone right through that. So I'll be putting a third one on come soon. This pipe is a little heavy for just leaving it in between your teeth, and when your teeth aren't as young as they used to be, that extra weight makes you clamp down on it. So I'm sure that's why that's there. But if this weren't there at all, that's got to be plastic. That plastic mouthpiece there is just too hard for these old teeth. I've been getting or detecting different flavors in this tobacco, but it's like a foreign language. You need to learn the names and learn the flavors that go with the names, just like when you're playing the trumpet. You need to know which valve to hit down and what note you're playing and how it sounds. Well, this is similar. You have to, once you get that flavor, you have to say, I taste that, but what the heck is it? And since I've just smoked it, I haven't really thought about it. But it's curious that now I'm beginning to detect differences in those old taste buds in my mouth or on my tongue. It's only taken what? It's almost 2 years now. Almost 2 years. I don't smoke this as often as I used to. Some days I'll smoke 2 bowls, and sometimes I'll go a week without it. So maybe I'm not the pipe smoking enthusiast I was 2 years ago when I was 76. Well, y'all saw the flood that came up that day. Came up to my bottom step. My bottom step's about 3 inches. So it came under the carport 3 inches. And that's just the first. I have like 2 stone concrete squares that sit there. I made the steps wider and the steepness less for my two dogs I had prior to Hunter, so that I have two concrete slabs. Each of them's about 3 inches, so maybe not 3 inches, maybe an inch and a half. But anyway, came up to the first stone on the first step, which means it was about 1.5 to 2 inches, somewhere around there. And in the backyard, it did not go very far into the backyard. Now, according to the tide table the next day, the same thing was supposed to happen. That was a 7-foot tide, according to the tide table. And another 7-foot tide was coming in the next day. Well, I kept waiting for it, and I looked over at my neighbor's car was parked in their driveway, and it came up their driveway and just touched the back tires. And when high tide was over, it receded. It didn't come any higher than that. Well, I thought, good, that's another one of those once in a lifetime things. Something that's never happened before, unless, well, I take that back. It has happened once before, but that was one of those things. This one, there was no wind, no nothing. The tide just came in. So the next day, when the same 7-foot tide they predicted did not come any higher than my neighbor's back tire in his driveway, I figured, well, I think we're okay, because the next day, which was, I can't remember what day it was now, but anyway, the next day it was predicted to be a 6.9 foot tide, and I figured, well, didn't come up any higher than that, so whatever that freak tide was, it's not going to affect us. But still, I looked out to watch when the tide here comes. The tide table shows what the tide's going to be in Charleston Harbor, and it always hits that height 2 hours later here. So if the tide was showing to be at 6 o'clock in the morning, it would be 8 o'clock in the morning when the full brunt of high tide would come in here. Well, I walked out to look at the creek over there, and that tide was just rushing in. You could see it. There are branches that kind of drag in the water. And as it was coming in, it was pulling those branches over. It was coming in so fast. So I thought, this is going to be interesting. Came back in and looked out an hour later, and it was up to my neighbor's front back step and beginning to fill in over here and coming under my carport. And there was an hour to go. So I thought, what the hell? Yesterday it didn't even come up any more than it ever has before, and now it's coming up like this. Holy cow. So I kept watching it after that when it started coming under the carport. And it came up and it covered the first step and was climbing up the second step when I looked out there about the peak of the tide. And in the back, I have a sump pump back there that hasn't activated in a long time. And the backyard was a lake. I mean, it was just, and that pump out there was a steady gusher out into the creek. I mean, it was pumping it. And it could pump something like 50 gallons a minute, they told me. So, I mean, it was pumping it out. No hesitation, no nothing. It was just a steady gusher. And I kept watching it and kept watching it and kept watching the clock. And when the time came when our 2 hour difference to the high tide in the harbor, well, I could see it stopped because you could see leaves and things gently flowing back until the, well, they call it neap tide, when it stopped. And the receding, you can almost see it as the leaves begin to slowly just drift backwards. So the tide that came up the day after that one that I filmed, I've never seen one like that except during hurricanes. So I don't know what exactly. I mean, the moon was full, whatever day that was, but I don't quite understand how they say that when the moon's full, it draws that tide up. Unless when it's full, it comes closer to the earth, which I don't see. I don't see that at all. So, and I was surprised when it started backing out and going back into the river. When it rains hard and it floods here, it stays forever. But with the tide receding, it didn't stay forever. It just went away. Odd. Just odd. And that's the first time that I've seen a high tide come up. I mean, I was out there in my boots and it was over my ankles. And it was about almost halfway up the boots whenever I was walking out in the yard. Well, all I can say is the good Lord's been good to me. As many times as we've had hurricanes come through and the flooding that accompanies that, and these new high tide, king tides, they call them, he has never allowed it to come into the house, and I'm ever grateful for that. So, I thank the Lord above that tide did not come in any higher. And that pump out there, usually when the water comes in here, it just lays there for days. But that pump out there had it cleared up that evening. I mean, it was gone. Couldn't believe it. I'm thankful I put that out there. Jeepers. It was just pushing it out. Well, I know y'all aren't interested in my flooding problems, but I guess I just wanted to talk about it. And I enjoy smoking a pipe and thinking that when somebody's watching this, they're smoking a pipe with me. Now, the last post that I put up took 28 hours to upload. I don't know what's happened to that either. Used to be I could make one of these things and within 45 minutes it was uploaded and it could be seen. But these days it's taking forever, and I don't understand that either. I'm just getting more and more confused. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me. I appreciate it. I don't talk to many people. This is the most people I talk to at any one time. And I guess that's because I don't have them looking back at me saying something. I can just run my mouth. I'm not used to running my mouth that much. Even Hunter's surprised when I talk sometimes. Well, I'm going to stop this. Stop just rambling on. Next time I'll try to have something to tell you. Some story of some kind. I haven't been writing in the morning, so I haven't been jogging my memory much. My machine has fouled up in some way, and I'll have to figure that out too. So many things that I don't have an answer for right now. Well, it's Wednesday. I went to the grocery store because it was geezer day. Got my geezer discount, and still didn't buy that much. Bought more for Hunter than I did for me to eat, and it was still over $100. One of my problems is I just buy what I want and don't look at the price. All right, take care of yourselves. God bless you until the next time. I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope you have a good rest of the week. Bye-bye.